Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, assuming we're moving forward with the freshman quarterback in control, if not for at least this week, maybe beyond, does that mean things are removed from the offensive playbook, or could things actually be added?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. So visit FanDuel.com to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you as we are close to turning the page, but still some things to process, obviously, from Saturday's trip to Fort Worth that we will dive into today. And, of course, the headline, I think, coming out of the ball game was the departure of Behren Morton and the insertion of one Will Hammond. And, man, we have heard since Hammond got on campus that this guy is in the category of dude, not just a guy. It was kind of amazing how quickly he inserted himself into the QB2 conversation. Seemed like a no-brainer very early on. We really only got to see him in some extended action several weeks ago against North Texas, but looked very sharp there. But everything was sharp against the Mean Green. But I got to tell you, it couldn't have been any more impressed with Hammond coming into the ball game in Fort Worth. Obviously, in some crucial moments, I care about it as it pertains to the game, but as it pertains to Will Hammond, I don't care about the fumble. I don't think that's on him. I'm giving credit to a Texas Christian player for making a play on it, I suppose, and wondering why the ball was in his hand to begin with. But outside of that, one little split second, Chris, the dude was in command, and his offense was looking sharp. And again, we're talking about a freshman here. I thought body language was something that also stood out to me, like pre-snap communication. Again, in command is sort of the descriptor that came to mind. Was really impressed with Will Hammond. He is now on tape, and I'm sure folks will start to develop a plan for Will Hammond defensively. So not acting like you're on easy street by any stretch of the imagination, but man, live fire, road environment in the Big 12 conference with a game on the line. I really don't know what more you could have asked for. I thought he handled himself very, very well.
Yeah, you know, in Behren, it was toward the end of the first half. It's just you're really close to the situation. In some case, I'm on the sideline. You know, and everything like that. I didn't really grasp that Behren was significantly hurt until I'd just gone up to get out of the sun in the locker room at halftime, or around, you know, the tunnel, I should say. All the team was up there, and I was just kind of in the tunnel, just out of the sun for a bit, and kind of came back out, and there's no Behren Morton, and Will Hammond and Cam Brown are out there warming up, and you quickly grasp, because if just remember on the broadcast, there was a sack toward the end of the first half when Behren kind of took it. I couldn't tell if it was a called run or he was just like, okay, what I want is not open. I'm going to look to get out of here. And he kind of got, I think Brian Jensen on the broadcast, he got pinball around a little bit, and he was slow to get up, and well, no Behren Morton. And I'm like, okay, Will Hammond's about to start this second half. So like all that happens, you know, I'm just trying to get people to understand, like, okay, so he kind of goes from, okay, I guess I'm going to play, and like, I guess I better get myself ready, and like, I got to get mentally focused and all those things. Tricky spot to get put in when you have a 3-point lead and you're on the road, and here you go. But that's the life of a potential backup QB, is that you're just not sure when your number is going to get called, and it did. And I thought he responded very, very well. Will is somebody that I think very much like Behren. I think Will is somebody that people gravitate to. I think they just kind of look to him. It's hard to explain that, but you could just see it. I think he's got there's a zip on his ball that when he's throwing it, I mean, there's just some things about him that you could just tell. I mean, he's got a bright future. And you're right. He has passed some folks up. He is firmly entrenched at number 2. And I think that the sad part here is that there's a serious potential here that there will be no redshirt year for him, which ultimately sucks. We'll talk about that in time, but he's more than likely going to be a true sophomore next year because of what he's already played 2 games. Depending on what they find out about Barron, I mean, there's a real chance here that, he could play the next couple of weeks. And then I don't know if Barron, then you got a bye week. I don't know if Barron will be ready or what they'll find out, but I'm just putting that out there as a realistic possibility that, he could end up, playing this year and saying, okay, I'm all in. I'm not going to get this redshirt year back. Okay. So there's that component, but and like going forward with him, if this is what happens, and we'll find out later today from Coach McGuire kind of what the status is when we get the injury report. And I don't know whether they list Barron as out or questionable or whatever. We'll just have to figure that out. But if Will does get the nod, it's a bit different than, hey man, you're up, let's go. And then there's not a lot of time to think, which sometimes is good for kids.
Yeah,
they don't have time to stress, to overthink, to this and that. But if it is his go, he's going to have a game plan that will be, formulated around him and his skill set on kind of what he likes, what he doesn't like, what he's good at, what he's not good at, all those things. He's going to have time to study for that and rep it and all that, but he's also going to have a lot of time to think about it and to worry, stress, get excited. Who the heck knows? Because it's another road trip. And oh, by the way, it's against a top 10 opponent with, I think I'm comfortable in saying this, easily the best defense in the Big 12. Easily the best defense in the Big 12. Yeah, no big deal. And so there's just all those things. So, but I think if you can't get excited about what he's got, then I mean, and I want to make sure that too that I'm going to raise my hand and say I don't know what it looks like, but Jacoby Williams needs to play more. Jacoby Williams needs to play more. Whether that is this may be sacrilege, whether it's less time for Taj or more as a wideout or more as a 2-back, I don't know. But I mean, I like what it looks different. There's a different gear there. There's some things that Jacoby Williams do that Taj Brooks just cannot. And that's not, guys are different. That's not a knock on Taj, but I mean, there's a different, gear or speed to what Jacoby Williams can bring to you that you simply are missing. And I think if you could somehow marry this, but I think Jacoby's kind of, repped enough but those 2 guys gave me a lot of excitement in the second half. And you did not get the result that you wanted, but you can clearly see the future. Because here's the funny thing, Callan. If I just blankly ask you, hey, there's going to be a freshman that makes a huge impact on offense before this game even starts, odds are, who are you going to suggest to me that might have been?
I'm going to say Micah Hudson. Is that who you're thinking?
Yeah, and the answer is no, it's not. It was actually 2 other guys, and I do think
third on the list.
Yeah, Cam Dickey has a bright future as well. But I think that Nick Fattig, is I think really starting to emerge on the offensive line. I don't think they're ready to insert him as a starter yet, and he's not a true freshman, but I think redshirt freshman, and so you could just start to see glimpses of some of this talent that is learning and repping and getting better. And depending on, and I don't mean to derail what you were asking me, but I'll just keep going with this too, is depending on what we find out later today with the free safety position, there's 2 other true freshmen that I don't think were on the trip because you were completely healthy going into this game with Chapman Lewis / Devin Cromwell and then Joseph Plunk. So you're 3 deep, you're good. We're not gonna, but Malika Skara and Peyton Morgan are 2 very highly recruited guys that are safeties that are next in line there. So depending on what kind of news you get about Chapman or Cromwell, those are 2 true freshmen on defense that could start to push their way in or make some noise, because they've got some length, they've got some measurables. They've been practicing well, and with the maybe the bye week factored into it a couple weeks ago, and then maybe a full week if needed. You start to hear about some of those guys as well. So, there's no doubt that the talent around here is being upgraded, but we're trying to bridge the gap, because there's the here and the now, and then there's the future. And boy, you'd like to marry those two. And I'm not trying to tell everybody to, hey, don't be frustrated, because there's a lot of help on the way. I think we're just, for purposes of our conversation, it's fun to see some glimpses of that, because it does make you feel pretty good about where this thing is headed.
Yeah, and another layer to that is, if you are not upgrading. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And NFL fans, you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Say you're watching a game, you get hit with a hunch, an instinctual calling. Well, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page, where you're going to place your bets to keep up with everything going down in real time as you submit that slip. And right now, FanDuel is going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's right, $200 in bonus bets guaranteed with only a $5 bet out the gate at FanDuel.com. And another layer to that is, if you are not upgrading in the trenches, all the other stuff will be,
moot.
A moot point, at some point in time. But maybe we'll see some of that come to fruition as well. I was kind of curious, just to stick with what's happening in the backfield. Has Jacoby Williams passed up Cam Dickey in some situations? I kind of felt like early on it was more Brooks than Dickey. Dickey's kind of been MIA for the most part through the middle portion of the season, and then boom, on the road out of nowhere, tight ball game, we get Jacoby Williams sightings, and not just sightings, he's making an impact. I thought that was really interesting.
I agree with you. I think that's a very valid question. I do think you'll see this program go get a running back out of the portal. I really do. I don't think you're ready to just say Jacoby and Cam. It's solely because there's not really, without knowing Cameron Valdez's future, who's got a pretty significant injury, and knowing kind of what that looks like. That, and you've got our man from not Stanton but Albany. That is really your running back room, and you're going to obviously lose Taj Brooks after the season. I would be stunned if they don't get a running back out of the portal with some age to them, maybe with some size, just to mix things in. Because instead of two true sophomores, here you go, good luck. And I don't know if you have one committed right now that is necessarily a running back only from a freshman standpoint. So that position group will need some depth for sure. And I've even thought about, do you move Cam Brown there potentially, or utilize him more in a specialty situation as more of a pure running back? I don't know. He's got the size and some speed and some juice to him. But it's pretty clear Will Hammond has passed him up. But I think it's a fair question that you ask about Jacoby. They're different now, and I don't know if you just felt like, let's show him something different where Cam is more similar to Taj. Let's give him a curveball. I don't know. Either way, and TCU is very fast. I mean, TCU on paper has more highly recruited guys than anybody in the conference on their roster, if you go by such things. They have been a meltdown turnover machine. They continue to be over the weekend. You were not good enough to capitalize on it. Other teams have been. But they were very fast on the perimeter. Like, there were things that you were trying to get done on the perimeter, and they really swallowed a lot of that up. But Jacoby Williams did find some room and made some guys miss, and that's what some of the components on the perimeter that you lack. And I think that he brings you that. And I'm not sure if Cam Dickey necessarily does as much, maybe. But that's a good question. I don't know if I know the answer to, did he surplace him, or is this what we needed right now, his skill set, or, I'm not sure.
And I don't think it really matters necessarily, just more of a curiosity at this point in time, kind of given the narratives around those two backs as the season has gone along. But it was really nice to see what he was able to do. we don't know the for sure prognosis or diagnosis for Baron Morton as we sit here having this conversation. Looked awful collarbone-ish, I guess, just there on the sideline in the sling. And
it is the one positive here is that it is non-throwing shoulder.
Yes.
So true. I think that's something that we need to remember. Now, I don't know. I just know from like the Coy Akins, the Tyler Shuck. I can't remember if Bowman had one of these two. We've dealt with a lot of collarbone injuries with quarterbacks, unfortunately. If there is a fracture and it's bad enough, that requires a plate and some screws, and it's a 6 to 8 weeks ish.
Yeah, season's done, right? If that's the case.
Well, in this case, I think it would be. If it's a slight break, sometimes you don't have to go do anything with it, and there's not a whole lot you can do with it. It just kind of heals on its own. That's maybe a 4 to 6 week. Depends on how bad it is. And I'm giving you ranges. I'm no doctor. I'm just kind of going off of some of what I remember from some of the other guys. But if it's like a displacement or something like that, that displacement sounds bad. That may not be as bad. I just know Joey said we looked at the X-rays. We can't really tell. Like it's not, and obviously this is what the doctors are telling him because he's not looking at an X-ray and go, yeah, I can't exactly tell you what's wrong here. No, this is what the doctors are telling him. He just said to me after the game, you know, we can't really tell, so we're going to get more of a thorough examination, which they would have already been done by the time you and I are talking about this. We'll see what they find, but it's going to be small, medium, and large on kind of like my guess on kind of what we're looking at as far as I just am of the impression, and maybe Joey tells us differently later today at his media gathering. I just am of the opinion I don't think Baron will play this weekend. I think it's
I just really kind of bring up that context for the next question I want to ask, because I think it's safe to say, at least for this week, we got a different guy taking snaps. Is it going to be rest of the season? We'll find out, obviously, as this day or week rolls on. But for this week, if not beyond, do you think we see things change from an offensive standpoint? I mean, I know from a physical perspective, Will Hammond looked like he was capable of doing what Baron Morton was capable of doing within the passing game. It's one game, and a guy coming out of the shadows to do that, as I've already said this week. Obviously, defenses moving forward will develop a game plan for Will Hammond as well. But is there any like bowling with bumpers in the gutters for Will Hammond? Or
I really don't think so. I think he throws a great ball. I think the one thing he's got some side. You know, I was walking in Fort Worth. I was walking down the tunnel to the field before the game even started, and there were some guys that warm up. He actually was walking up the tunnel, and I said hi to Ben Roberts, and I said, "Hey man, good game today." And Will Hammond just kind of said, "Hey man, my name is Will Hammond." I said, "Chris Lovell, nice to meet you, man." And I said, "Good luck, man. I hear nothing but great things about you." He's like, "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it." It just was a brief interaction. I hadn't really met him yet. He's one of the younger guys, and we haven't had any reason to have any interaction because he's not one of the guys that's necessarily playing. But as I'm shaking his hand and I'm saying he's got some size to him. That's the one thing that I think he has added, being an early enrollee, is he's probably added close to 20 pounds of bulk. I think the one thing that he may do better than Baron is he's going to run around a bit more. He's maybe a bit of a better athlete with his legs. So you're asking me kind of what could change. And then some are going to say, well, of course, he's your backup quarterback. Of course, put him in harm's way. But that's kind of his game. Yeah. I mean, go look at his high school stats, man. I mean, the kid ran around and punished people with his legs. And that's part of what he is. He's am I going to say he's a full-go dual threat? I'd be close to saying that. I'd be close. And again, go look at his numbers from his senior year in high school. It's pretty damn impressive, the rushing numbers that he put up.
I was not familiar with that really part of his game.
Oh, yeah. It's a major part of what he does. And
so you may not take something away. We may add something. Kind of sounds like what we're circling around.
And I think that
First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Never sweat buying tickets to your favorite event again with Gametime. It's always a breeze using the Gametime app where you're going to find the best last-minute deals, and I love being able to scout out a view from any seat before pulling the trigger. Of course, you're always doing it at the lowest price guaranteed. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it begins, which means you can finish off that final brat, that final beer at your own pace at the tailgate, because Gametime is the place to find last-minute seats to any event. Gametime gives you the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets, but not just fast, also secure and simple to use. So right now, download the Gametime app and create an account and use our promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today for last-minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. So you may not take something away. We may add something. Kind of sounds like what we're circling around.
And I think that right, wrong, or indifferent, and many people are going to say different. Maybe everyone will say different. That's partly what is in the back of your mind when you call that last play that he ultimately fumbles on. Because that is kind of what he is. I think he is very mobile, very. And but he just got a lick, laid on him, a college hit, if you will. And the ball was dislodged, and we don't know who ultimately recovered it, but obviously they say that TCU did. So, but I think that some of your zone read stuff, I think he will pull it. I think he can extend the play. I think there's some bootleg stuff. I think there's some QB draw. I mean, I think that will be a big, because you're about to play the inventor of the three high safety kind of double cloud look, and there's going to be a lot of empty space underneath to be had. Now it's a trick and it's a bait, but it looks like there's a lot of space, and then all of a sudden at the snap of a finger, there's not there. It's all gone. And so you will, I think, have to incorporate some of that stuff just to kind of keep Iowa State honest and Colorado honest if he sees some time here in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I think you're going to add something to your offensive scheme. Yes.
Interesting. Certainly does not seem afraid. I didn't notice any timidity in any part of what he was doing.
He's got it. Yeah. He's not, the moment's not going to be too big for him. He is very serious about his craft. I think this is partly why he's got some tremendous physical tools and everything, but I think it's upstairs what separates him and why he's able to look so advanced. And we'll see. Again, this is a true freshman. I don't know what we're getting into here. He may not even play this weekend for all we know, but I think he will.
There will be mistakes. There will be plays made against him. I have no doubt. But
just like maybe being too high up on a QB draw and he gets hit instead of going down or again, whatever. But I think that they'll be able to try to find something that really works for him that they can attack and all those things. The other thing that we were talking injuries over the last couple of shows that we've done too is, Josh Kelly is far from 100%. If you watched him, one of those plays fairly late in the game, he caught one on the perimeter and he just dropped, and you almost go, uh-oh. It was like a kind of a non-contact. Luckily, he kind of popped back up and was able to kind of keep going with it. But I thought, because I think he's been battling ankle and knee stuff, and he's just been kind of grinding. But he had a modest statistic day. But my hope is that Will Hammond has a full allotment of weapons around him, and it would certainly be beneficial to maybe utilize your tight ends more. I say that, but then your offensive line needs help as well, and so pick your poison, I guess.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up about Kelly. I did kind of want to ask about him. I was wondering, I know he's a little banged up. I was wondering too if maybe he's getting a little more attention from opposing defenses as the season has gone on, or maybe it's just all injury related. I don't know, but definitely. And thank God for Caleb Douglas picking up that slack. I mean, if we would have told ourselves, hey, you're rolling into it and this is what you're going to get from Josh Kelly production wise, you're thinking, okay, so it's going to be a a rather muted offensive output.
Yeah, Caleb Douglas has had some drops this year. Okay, some things that you're going, oh,
Yeah,
he's legit, man. I mean, he's a baller. I mean, he's
working. I mean,
yes.
I instantly thought when he made that contested catch, one of the first big ones early on in the game, I thought of what McGuire said last week. Like, he's got a great routine right now. He's in Brighton early, catching 100 balls before he's going to class or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's putting in some time, and I think he's reaping some of that those rewards.
And it's paying off, absolutely. Yeah. And I think there's some trust, with I guess not one but two QBs, and he's got a chance to be really. You just theoretically he could be here for 2 more years after this one. I think he probably is just here for one, but we'll see.
Would be for some fun reasons if he's just here for one. So yes. I'm all right with him producing to that extent. I was curious. I had a Matador mobster asking this question earlier this morning. How did Will Hammond wind up a Red Raider? Was there a natural connection of some kind? Does he have a relationship on the staff? Was it just, hey, we recruited him, he liked it, reciprocated the relationship? Or
Zach Kitley? Zach Kitley identified, this is who I want, and Zach Kitley was all in. And Zach Kitley built that relationship from the get-go. And, that's kind of, really, I don't think there's much more to it than that. I think Zach Kitley identified this kind of very intelligent, multifaceted, player that has got some skills to him. I mean, I'm just telling you, I would tell folks, if you're not familiar with his background, what he did at Hutto statistically will shock you if you're unfamiliar. I'll just like as I think the Indiana coach says, whatever, Google me. But yeah, Google Will Hammond at Hutto and go see what that young man was able to do, or go look on the Texas Tech website and look at his bio and things like that. I mean, statistics were just gaudy. I think there's a game a year ago where he maybe accounted for 9 or 10 touchdowns.
Yeah,
and this is he's playing at a high classification in Texas high school football. This isn't like some 2A, 3A deal. No, this is like, this is big boy stuff. But he's got a chance. But I think to answer your question, I think this is Zach Kitley. Yeah,
I remember seeing some of those games, particularly maybe that one you're alluding to there, and in a very morbid Red Raider sense of humor kind of way. Saw a guy that I think had like 700 yards of offense and his team lost by a score. I'm thinking, this is our man. This is our man. Come on down. But let's try to flip that script as far as the final score is concerned. I just have one very simple question to wrap up our conversation here today, Chris. How the hell do we get everybody to play great at the same time? Probably one that everybody's asking himself. But
real quick, because I did my own, just so for purposes of folks listening here, just because you're asking me about what may change the offense.
Yeah.
This is a quarterback that in high school, he ran for 2,344 yards in his high school career, and he had 37 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
But yeah, he that's what I just want people to. So he's gonna run. That's just who he is. He's gonna run and all that stuff. How do we get everybody to shake hands and be on the same page and play? Hell if I know, man. I kind of palms up on that.
Probably like 5 teams that do it, that achieve it consistently. I mean, it's
I just go back to the game in Fort Worth, and you do what you felt like you had to, and you get to the quarterback. He's throwing you the football. You take the ball away from him, because in the last, like, Josh Hoover is a turnover machine. In the last 4 of his last 5 games, I think he's got all 8 picks in 4 of his last 5 on the season. He also, because I think what he's really interesting is for him, he kind of, it's like, okay, I'm going to look off over here. Then I'm just automatically like, he's almost like faking going through his progressions. And I think Tech got him one time because I think he was just almost like looking off a safety or making everybody think he is, and he just automatically fires it. And CJ Baskerville was like, "Oh, I got that one." And you strip sack him as you got home a little bit. But you do all these things, and you do all these things that we asked on defense, which had not been present at all in a couple of games prior. And then you don't do anything with it. You just don't. And I even asked Joey a question on his coach's show. I had it written down for the week before, and I hadn't had a chance to get to it. And so I asked it probably a show too late, but still it applies, and it applies now. They seemed to be very aggressive in Tucson, specifically when they got one of those interceptions off of Noah Fafita. I would say that even most so or more so after, like toward the end of the half, when it really didn't make any sense to get more aggressive. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here trying to talk about how passionate I am about being aggressive after a turnover. But that's when you're backed up and you come out firing. You come out, and I thought, okay, is there just a fundamental decision? When we get a takeaway, you go for the throat. You get really aggressive. And, so I'm like, because you scored 18 points off of the takeaways in Tucson. I don't remember off the top of my head in Fort Worth here, like points off of turnovers, but I don't think it was 18. I think that you squandered the turnover on downs, which I don't know if it factors into.
Do you want to know?
Yeah, what is it?
Do you really want to know?
6, 10.
Technically 0 offensive points. You got 7 from a fake field goal. So
okay. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That right there kind of sums up this game to me, and like or your topic.
Mm-hmm.
That like the points off of turnovers, but then again, that's also, if you want to point all to that, it's like, well, but you also let 150, close to 160 passing yards on the day in 2 plays with a 75-yarder and an 84-yarder. Like, which you just cannot do. So that's why I guess just pick your poison or pick your frustration or whatever. But yeah, that kind of, because at the time your offense has kind of gotten it figured out, and you've got a lead, and it's like, man, just make them snap it again, defense. Just at least make them work for it. Take some time off the clock, but then, just 2 plays, and it's like, okay, Macho, I'll see you. And he's just down the sideline, and Macho Stevenson just didn't, he just kind of got out physical, and it was just off to the races. So that's also not complimentary football as well. And Joey, he pointed that out, after it was over. He's like, that alters the time left in the game. If they're going to eventually score, at least if they take 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, having to do it, whatever, it's played differently. But when they just, score in a hiccup like that, I mean, it just, so anyways.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm sorry, I missed one. You did have an offensive touchdown later on in the game off of the drive that started with an interception. So 3 takeaways, 1 offensive touchdown, 1 special teams touchdown, which maybe hurt even more so offensively, because again, you took that one away almost at the goal line. But nonetheless, not here to relitigate again what went right or what went wrong for the Red Raiders. You score 1 fewer point than the opposition, and you take your 2nd consecutive L. We'll be curious to hear from Joey McGuire's coordinators as well, and obviously the very interesting, always interesting, sometimes busier than others, injury report that we'll have to process on the next episode also. So, Chris, appreciate the time as always, man. Enjoyed it, and we'll see you for the next one.
Hey man, we'll keep fighting. We've got some young players to continue to talk about. We've got some basketball on the horizon, which is a week from tomorrow that begins the season. I believe we've got, and then we've got a lot of this revenue sharing things that are about to change everything that we knew. And so we will do what we can to try to keep this machine rolling and my guns will remain up. We'll go to Ames, and it won't be near as cold. And I'll do my part, people. I will do my part. Yeah, I'm coming for you, Matt Campbell. I'm coming for you. I think the bill on your hat is really stupid. I don't, I think you may know a little bit about football, but I just don't like the way you wear a hat. So, yeah, my eyes on you, Matt Campbell. Yeah, that's right. That's right. See everybody tomorrow.
We got Bill beef this week in the
right.
LBK. All right. Appreciate you guys, as always, for being out there. Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Check out the Matador Mob. Hit the show notes for your link to try on a free 14-day trial, your one-on-one direct avenue to Chris and myself with text messages straight to your phone on any subject, anytime. Appreciate the time as always. Special shout out to the everydayers out there. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.